What's up, YouTube? In the last video, I read a Guy Fieri creepypasta, My Curse of My Flavortown, both parts 1 and 2, and it was really funny. And this is a creepypasta. Well, this is not a creepypasta. This is a fan fiction. I'm pretty sure it was an erotic fan fiction that I read over on my Twitch channel a couple of years ago. And I remember it being really funny, so I want to revisit it and see if it's as good as I remember. Like My Immortal was. Been reading that one too, and it's fucking epic. This is Guy Fieri and the Fieri in my heart. Chapter 1. The Cook of My Dreams. Since the first episode, I had been in love with Guy Fieri. I had my room decorated with sheets and wallpaper of him. I even had 4 body pillows of him. 2 of them were well used. I had a corner full of stuffed figures of him. I even bought a bag of a few hairs of his that fell off into his food. What the fuck? That restaurant owner saved. They are already gone. They are already gone though. I put them in my food and eat them. Once I do my business, I pluck the hairs out to reuse the hairs for my next meal. Oh, that is gross. Back at my old high school, I made a club about him. I was the only member. I was never lonely, though. I kept 2 of my body pillows, the used ones, 1 for each arm. I talked to them and covered them in my saliva when no one was looking. It was an after-school ritual. I always had dreams about him. "Welcome to Flavortown," he say as I sank to my knees, desperately clawing for his flavor stick. It always ended before it got good, unfortunately. I love him. I'd let him drip salsa onto me and eat it off with chips. I'd let him pre-chew my food for me. I want him to stuff my pussy like he stuffs a quadruple patty burger and eat me with all the ferocity he does a steak. I'd let him do anything to me. I had graduated high school last year, and now I was working on a restaurant. My dream is to open my own restaurant and have him come review my food. Then my pussy. So naturally, when I heard he'd be coming to the restaurant I worked out of for his show, I was ecstatic. Words can't describe the feeling I felt that day when I had felt feelings that had been felt that what? Words can't describe the feelings I felt that day. When I had felt feelings that had been felt that day, I had felt feelings to be felt. That's a hell of a sentence. Just remembering makes me giddy. April 23rd. That's when he showed up. I woke up at 1 a.m. to spruce myself up for the location. I couldn't stop thinking about it. The owner of the restaurant had told me I'd be the one cooking his meal. This would have been the perfect opportunity to lace it with Viagra or roofies. Of course, I couldn't because of the cameras, and he'd be watching me. Guy Fieri watching me cook. My body was already trembling with pleasure. I felt my panties hang heavy. I left a trail of liquid wherever I walked in the kitchen. God damn. Finally, the moment came. I heard the bustle outside the kitchen. I peeked out to see a camera crew running about. I walked to the window and peered outside into the warm spring day. The sun was bright, sending a wave of white light down onto the ground, as if an angel was descending the heaven. Submerged in that light was an angel, my angel. Guy drove his red convertible out of the bright light, his shades glinting with sunlight. His bleached hair flowing through the wind, elegantly like wind blowing through leaves. His bowling shirt flailed around wildly, a thrashing beast worn about his body. A thrashing beast. His bowling shirt. I couldn't be any wetter. My pussy was overflowing. People were slipping on the floor. I don't care. I didn't care. I quickly checked my reflection in the window. Would I be good enough for him? I could only hope. I stood by the owner awaiting the heavenly arrival of Guy. I stood, my hands clenching my apron. My heart was beating like a drum, but it felt so right. The nervousness had a feeling of belonging. He bursted through the door, shouting loud in his sexy voice, "Welcome to Flavortown!" His voice made my body quiver in delight. The smell of expensive, overpriced cologne filled the room. I couldn't stop sniffing. There was a hint of hair gel swirling in with the cologne. He looked at the owner, putting an arm around him, looking to the camera. "I'm here in Orange County with Todd Baker, where his famous deep-fried stuffed, then wrapped in double-fried, then stuffed again, monster burger, burrito, Philly cheesesteak sandwich on pizza is made." God, what the fuck kind of restaurant is this? That's like asking to die. Hearing Guy say the owner's name and seeing his arm around him was enough to make me want to kill my boss out of jealousy. The owner said something about the restaurant. I honestly wasn't listening. My eyes were glued to his beard and all the excess grease and crumbs in it. Oh, what I wouldn't give to suck them out of his beard. Finally, he looked at me and said out loud, "And this is Nikki Frustuck. She will be cooking me this wonderful meal today." He didn't even have to touch me. I unleashed a legendary squirt, spraying the camera. I opened my mouth. What the fuck? "Yes, that's me." I slightly celebrated in my mind celebrated in my mind. That came out well. "Well, let's take a look inside the kitchen," Guy Fieri said, gesturing for the camera to look at the back of the room. Pause. It did. I saw Guy look at me. What the fuck? Pause. It did. I saw a guy look at me. I don't know what that is supposed to mean. I gave him a smirk, almost cynical, almost excited. Chapter 2. Getting heated in the kitchen. On camera, we went from station to station, explaining the purpose of each. And everyone, oh, it's just spaced weird. On camera, we went from station to station, explaining the purpose of each and every one. My eyes were glued to Guy, however. I even chopped off one of my fingers, but it was all okay. Once we get into the bedroom, I'll have him use it to fuck me. What the fuck? Maybe even have him put it between a hot dog bun, deep-throating my finger. It made me shudder in pure pleasure at the mere thought. Finally, it came to my favorite part. I began cooking in front of him. I could hear him taking a loud sniff and letting out a satisfied gasp behind me. But something weird was going on. He kept leaning closer to me, sniffing, leaning closer, sniffing. It caused my hand to erratically shake. He stood by the manager. "Smells good, right? Bet you can't wait to eat it." The manager was tooting his own horn as Guy nodded. "Oh yes, I see something I really want to eat." His eyes gravitating to my ass. I could feel his eyes on my ass. I froze. He licked his lips, getting saliva stuck in his goatee and mustache. I wanted to turn around, rip my shirt off, spread flour over my body, and have Guy draw penises on my body with his tongue. I wonder if he'd let me call him Sauce Daddy. Hopefully he will. As I worked on the meal, I made sure to drop every fucking thing in the kitchen and bend down, moaning and wiggling my booty as I picked it up. I figured giving him an appetizer to the full meal would ignite his passion. The fumes filled the room with the sweet, delicious scent of food. It was the perfect romantic setting. Food, us, tables and chairs, and a restaurant, and several cameras pointed at us. Kinky, dirty thoughts raced through my mind. His actions, his voice, and his words. I couldn't believe it, but it seemed he was hitting on me. I was overjoyed. Even if it wasn't true, I let out an ear-piercing squeak for the record time of 1 minute and 55 seconds without taking a breath. After that spectacle, the manager and camera crew looked scared. Everyone did, except Guy. who just kept on smiling, licking away at his wet lips. Finally, the food was done. After making his usual commentary on the preparation, it was time to serve it to Guy. He walked to the best table we had and sat down. I came out carrying the food. I was envious of the food. I wish he'd eat me out like this food. I sat down, the steaming plate in front of him, but his eyes remained fixed on me, on my breasts. I squealed, running behind the camera crew, unable to control myself. What was I doing? My one and only love was staring at me, and I ran. Stupid, stupid, stupid! Guy went right on with the show and violently dug into the food, destroying it, wrapping his tongue around each part. And he jammed his tongue into each nook and cranny. His saliva dripped down onto the food, the fluid soaking into the food. I couldn't stop watching. I swear I had an erection watching this. He devoured the food, stuffing the meat into his mouth, cramming it deep down and rubbing his tongue all over it. I was practically moaning behind the camera crew, who were trying to kick me away out of fear. I couldn't handle it. It was too good. There was a puddle under me. I splashed in the puddle like a little duck. Quack, quack. I moaned while splashing. That is so fucking... Oh, after a few more minutes, he finally finished his food. He made his commentary on it. It was over. The heaven I was living in only lasted a few hours. He had all the footage he needed and was now going. I felt like I wanted to die. I felt as if I had received a part of myself that had been missing for so many years, and now it was leaving. Fieri came by one by one, hugging each employee, and when it was my turn, I screamed and I backed up to see a wet trail coursing down his shirt. I realized I did that and blushed profusely, happy that part of me would stay with him forever. The camera crew loaded up and were ready to leave. We were outside going to watch him leave, but then something happened. He hopped out of his car, walking up to me. Sorry to ask this, but I left my sunglasses in the kitchen. Can you come with me and unlock the door so I could get them? His sweet, innocent smile made my heart pound. I nodded. We walked to the kitchen, and when we were inside, he closed the door. I was too busy obsessing over him to realize. We don't lock our kitchen doors. Chapter 4. Sausage Swallowing. I turned to him, my eyes filled with confusion and unexpected fear. His smile pushed his cheeks up until they almost covered his eyes. So sorry to trick you like this. I didn't know how to get you alone any other way. He walked towards me. Out of instinct, I backed up until I was pressed against a wall. His belly rubbed up and down my body. A belly dance from Guy? I couldn't contain my juices. I see you're already wet. I'ma juice you like orange, then I'll drink you all up. As he says this, his tongue slithered around in his mouth as he made a slurping noise. Oh my. Oh my, he's going to make me into a Nicky milkshake. Oh my, he's going to make me into a Nicky milkshake. I don't know what that means. I don't understand the joke. I thought to myself, without warning, his lips met with mine in a moment of blissful peace. Despite how fast my heart was beating, I felt calm and as safe as I could be. I'd rate you a 5 out of 5 on taste, appearance, and preparation. He rated me? I don't deserve... Oh, he rates food. I don't deserve this heaven. Without warning, I was thrown to my knees. I looked up to him, my eyes wavering. Sir? I stammered. He smiled down at me. He reached into his pants, and his hand came out, covered in Cheeto dust. He reached down and rubbed it onto my lips. Why does he have Cheeto dust in his fucking pants? I'm coming to make you my bitch. Now kiss me, bitch. I want that Cheeto dust in my mouth. Oh, what the fuck? I I complied to his command, standing up, meeting my lips with his in a joyful reunion, his tongue slathered around my lips. All traces of Cheetos were erased, sucked into the black void of his mouth. Saliva mixed together into one giant ocean of love. It was his sausage. I was his sausage, bitch. I sank to my knees and untucked his flame-covered bowling shirt. In a fit of passion, I ripped his flaming bowling shirt off of him, only to find another one. He's like an onion. He's got layers. He's just like Shrek, except with bowling shirts. I unbuckled his ripped jeans, letting them drop to the floor. Finally, all my dreams are being achieved. I reached into his boxers and pulled out his mega doodle noodle. mega doodle noodle. It was thick and throbbing in my hand. The producers were probably wondering where we were, but I did not care. He wrapped his hand around the back of my head and looked down straight into my eyes. In a deep voice with a seductive undertone, he said, "Welcome to Flavortown." And with that, he plunged his cock down my throat. He gave me no time to be prepared. My lips tight around his shaft. I felt so dirty. I felt so shameless. Easily giving myself up to this man. It felt so right. I looked up into his eyes. I could tell from the look in his face I was doing all right. That was all that mattered. I couldn't control my body around him. I would do anything to see him pleased. I managed to stabilize myself by pushing off his thighs, no longer bobbing my head back and forth on him. I took my time. First, I sucked all the way back to his tip, my lips just barely on his tip. I delivered a short but sweet kiss to it before indulging myself more. Now my lips were tightly wrapped around his shaft just after his tip. My tongue twirled around his tip in gentle circles to give him maximum stimulation. The moans. Wait a minute, is her name Nikki? Is that why he's gonna turn her into a Nikki something? The moans assured me of my success in doing so. My hand slid up to his balls softly and slowly. I massaged my future children as he moaned out my name. Nikki, Nikki. His cock was now throbbing. I went all in. I wrapped my remaining hand around the bottom of his cock and moved it in motion with my head bobbing up and down on his meat. My other hand was still busy managing the boys. I could feel him tense up. His noodle was about ready to doodle all over my face, or maybe he'd let me eat his pastry. The thought of that made my erotic movements more intense. Faster, faster, harder, harder, I thought to myself. Can't stop. Now, must get his cum. My heart was beating until I could swear it. I swear he felt it too. My face tripled for each heartbeat that had occurred while I was pleasing my sausage daddy. Then it happened. Chapter 4. Mayo Mayhem. It happened. A creamy mess in my mouth. He let out a mighty roar that stumped the trump. What the fuck? He let out a mighty roar that stumped the trump, trumpeted over shrieks my own mighty bellow, and woke the children on the other side of the world. It was magical. It was a magical moment. I didn't stop. I kept sucking as well as I could manage. 3, 2, 1, got a blast. Bam! Another load emptied into my skull. It felt like a shotgun had entered my mouth and fired. My head ricocheted backwards and smashed on the stove. I began to fade in and out of reality. I'm just imagining her head like getting blasted back and hitting a wall. It reminds me of like there's a moment in Scary Movie 1 where like two of the characters are having sex and he like blows a load and she flies up and hits the ceiling. Nikki, don't make me spank you with spicy ricey nachos. What the fuck? Those were the last words I heard. After that, I heard silence. Rather, I heard the lack of sound that was nothing. Rather, I heard the lack of sound. There was nothing. It was dark, a dark, soulless void. I burrowed deep within it, not wanting to leave, hoping it kept me safe. The last thing I tasted and felt, his warm, gooey love sauce and the throbbing pain of my own head. I hoped and I prayed this was not a dream. If my meeting with Sausage Daddy turned out not to be true, my life would be over. If it wasn't, I savored some of his sausage grease. Wait, if it wasn't, I savored some of his sausage grease in my mouth. I will put his cum into a jar when I get the chance. Then I would sniff it all day long. That all banked on this not being a dream. When I awoke, I was covered in many different things. Salsa to potato chip crumbs, taco shells to roast beef. Almost if someone had eaten over the top of my body. Upon looking around, I realized I was home. My heart began to sink. I was in my bed, at home. I passed out in the restaurant. Unless it was a dream. I sniveled and tried to hold back my tears. My eyes flooded, however, and streams of salty droplets rained into my eyes. Then, from the abyss my heart was sinking into, came hope. That smell. Cheap cologne, hair gel, and grease. The water was running in the shower. Like a lion locked onto its prey, I dove off of my bed, sprinted to the bathroom, swung open the door, my eyes wide with disbelief. He was actually here, in my room. Guy Fieri! He put on his flame-covered bowling shirt. He just took a shower in my room. I made sure to lick every drop of water out of the shower later. For now, however, I was drooling in delight. I slurped my slimy saliva as I looked at his beard. He looked up from the menial task of buttoning up his shirt, a task a slave like me can do, with a big smile. Nikki, sweetheart, how are you? After that crazy ride in Flavortown, I was afraid you were dead. He burped each word. Breath smelling of pickles and pepperoni. He burped. Nikki, sweetheart. What the fuck? Yeah, it's fucking gross. Wait, so we really mashed meats? I quietly gasped. It was no dream, it was reality. Mashed meats? Nikki, we pulverized our privates. He laughed. He laughed aloud, causing my face to tint of pink. He kneeled down on one leg and smiled up at me. From his back pocket, he produced a half-eaten onion ring and held it up to me. Nikki, will you marry me? He smiled. I could see bits of spinach in his teeth. It didn't stop me from tearing. A weird rush of emotions ruled over me. My knees shook under my own weight. My arms trembled as I tried to hold them to my mouth. Salty tears slid down my face over my hands and dropped onto the tile flooring. With overwhelming enthusiasm, I nodded my head. His grin grew even bigger, and he ate the ring. Of course, he ate it. After that, it's been 6 years. Every day of every year was spent in Flavortown. We have 8 kids. Each named after my hubby's favorite food. It's just my Fieri and me. But sometimes, when I'm feeling naughty, I have an affair with my body pillows. That was amazing. I fucking love this one. I really want more of these. I'm gonna have to find more Guy Fieri. There's Gordon Ramsay ones. I'm gonna have to look into these. These sound fucking ridiculous. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And you can also check out what I do over on Twitch. I play horror games, and I make, like, metal guitar riffs over on my Instagram channel, and I'll put those links in the description. And this was an awesome, just absolutely fucking hilarious and ridiculous erotic fan fiction by a user named JigglyJelloJellal, and there'll also be a link to this original content in the description. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.